Hello viewers and welcome to this session and program. Today we will discuss on the topic Ecotoxicology. This forms a part of the course MEV 004 Environmental Toxicology, and it forms a part of the program Postgraduate Diploma in Environmental and Occupational Health and Master of Arts in Environmental and Occupational Health. Welcome to this program. Now, people may be surprised to learn that the water that we drink, the air that we breathe, the soil that we use to grow our crops are all contaminated. Now, sometimes they could be contaminated with certain toxic heavy metals. And then this can move in the food chain, and then the human beings, the environmental health can be affected. And so this session is going to talk about the toxic effects that we observe due to these toxic elements which are dispersed into the environment, and the effects that are seen on the ecosystems, on the communities, and also on the human health. So, now, even the natural cases, like for example, even in the case of the volcanic eruptions, even they can also emit certain hazardous or toxic substances. And a classic example is that of the carbon dioxide gas that was released on the night. It was a tragic study on the 21st of August in 1986 in the Lake Cameroon, that is in Africa. Now here we find that a large amount of the carbon dioxide, this was released due to the volcanic vents that were present at the bottom of this lake, and the carbon dioxide then accumulated with time in the bottom water, that is the carbon dioxide saturated bottom waters. And then we find that after some time there was some other kind of a disturbance, and this could have been due to a small earthquake or due to a landslide which occurred, the subaqueous landslide which occurred, and we found that this gas started moving upward and it also got dispersed into the atmosphere. And then since the gas is heavier than air, it also was found in the nearby villages where it was deposited, and several of the plant and the animal species were affected, and 1700 human beings were also asphyxiated due to inhaling this toxic carbon dioxide gas. So here we find in this study that even the natural processes can also release certain toxic elements which could be toxic for health, but in general there are several of the industrial processes which use nickel or copper or cadmium or chromium, and all these when dispersed into the environment, even for example the particulate matter containing compounds like the sulfur oxides or the sulfur dioxide, even that can also damage our lungs and then create a lot of health issues. Now, even the same environment factors, if they are healthy, then they can also promote healthier and longer lifestyles, longer health, and also productivity. So therefore, this association between environment and health, this is directly proportional, and the environmental health issues and the diseases, they may arise from the toxic elements in the water, in the air, and in the soil, and even on the rocks that we build our homes, because sometimes even the rocks can also emit certain toxic radiations, for example the radon gas, and that can also create certain problems for our health. Then in the same way, there are several other examples that which comes to my mind is that of the Sudbury smelter, and here we find that the nickel containing compounds were released, and that again created a lot of problem for the environment, for the health of the people. And in a small town, here we find that there were a lot of mines, there were a lot of smelters, there were a lot of refineries, and this nickel containing and other all these toxic compounds, they actually affected the air quality, the environmental quality. And then finally the Environmental Protection Agency in the US, they came up with certain guidelines and regulation, and then also in 1972 there was a draft guideline which also came up, and here they the smaller stacks were again, the taller stacks were made from the height of the stacks were increased, and then 50% of reduction of all these particulate matter and the emissions from the refineries were seen by the year 1972. But then we have observed, or the scientists observed, that there were decades of acid rain and acidification of the lakes which were observed over there. And once the Sudbury area had dense forestation, like dense vegetation, and the tree cover was also very good. But then after all this, there was a loss of biodiversity, decline in many of the plant and the animal species. So here again we find that the environmental activities, in this case it was the mines, it was the smelting and the refineries that have introduced these toxic elements into the atmosphere, into the environment, and deteriorated the air quality. Therefore, in this session, we need to understand certain important terms. Now, the term pollution, this and contamination, these are similar terms, and pollution is the undesirable effect of certain hazardous substances which are released into the environment. They can have toxic effects on people, on animals, on plants, on the ecosystems. Contamination again is a similar word to pollution, and for example, we use the term that a certain place is contaminated with toxic hazardous waste, or it is contaminated with electronic waste. Now, toxic refers to anything which is poisonous or which is toxic to human health. Toxicology is a science which studies the effects of the toxic compounds, and the dose and the concentration of the toxic compound is of interest. Synergism, this is a very important term. That means it is the interaction of two substances, that is of a chemical or of two or more chemical compounds. For example, if we take a single chemical, for example, it could be even an emission, it could be sulfur dioxides, or it could be the particulate matter in the case of air pollution. So now both of them independently, they can affect or they can exert the human health effects, and that can definitely harm the human beings. But when they act together, then that can exceed the sum of the individual effects, and that is what we refer to the term synergism. For example, if sulfur dioxide is deposited onto particulate matter or is adsorbed onto such particulate matter or particulates, then this particulate compound containing the sulfur oxides, that could be inhaled very easily. It could then get lodged into the bronchi, the bronchioles, and the lungs of a person, and it can even damage the lungs irreversibly. So that is the effect of synergism of a chemical or two or more chemical compounds. Now, how do we define toxicology, and what is the concept that is used in the ecotoxicology and the principles that we use in ecotoxicology? So there are mention of certain toxic substances by Hippocrates, by Aristotle and Theophrastus way back in 400 BC, and also in ecotoxicology and toxicological studies, the study of Paracelsus and Orfila are of utmost importance, and they are also referred to as the founders of modern toxicology. They introduced a very important term where the dose and the concentration of a chemical or of an element is very important. For example, a compound or a dose of a chemical that may not be toxic at a certain concentration, but when these substances are poison at a higher concentration. So all substances are poisons, but if we take that at a higher concentration, it could be even a medicine, it could be a pharmaceutical drug. So that may not exert toxicity at a certain level, for example aspirin, but when you take it at a higher concentration, at a dose which is not recommended safe, then even that can also become poisonous to human health. So it is a dose that makes a thing poison, or that which makes a chemical poisonous. Now, human behavior and pollution. So we are very much concerned about our behavior, our attitude towards the environment, and all this has resulted, that is the negative influences, if we detail, it has resulted in pollution, in smog, which is a combination of smoke and fog, in the acidification of the lakes, in the oceans. Then all these have serious consequences on all levels in the ecosystem. Because when we talk about ecotoxicology, we are not dealing only with the toxicity at the individual level, but we are dealing with the toxicity which is occurring at the ecosystem level, at the community level, and so on. Now, the nature of the pollutant, the characteristic of the pollutant, the phase association and the movement along which it moves. All these are very important in the biosphere, and they are also very important factors which are to be considered in the field and in the domain of ecotoxicology. So, how do we define the term ecotoxicology? So, this of course it has several definitions, and if we also talk about the toxic effects on the ecosystems, so these toxic compounds, they can threaten the survival of certain ecosystems, and it can result in serious consequences and irreversible changes, as I told you in the examples given in the beginning of the session. Like you could observe the soil decline of the productivity in the soil, or the loss of biodiversity, the loss of soil cover, then decline of forest, there could be a loss of fish production, and all this can result in the decline and loss of the aesthetic, the functional and commercial value of certain ecosystems. Now, what about the toxic effects which are observed on the communities? So we can also find that even in the web chain and also in the food chains, we find that the toxic substances can eliminate a variety of species. It can promote the undesirable growth of certain weeds, for example, in a community. So this will actually disturb the food web dynamics, and the species interactions will then get affected. The nutrient dynamics can be disturbed and altered. Now, in this figure, you are actually seeing an orchard, that is an apple orchard or a farm. Imagine if this apple orchard or the farm is sprayed with a lot of the chemical pesticides, and along with the pest of interest, we are also destroying the predators, which are also very important in the food chain, in the web dynamics, and also in the ecosystem. So by spraying such unwanted chemicals, we are also destroying the useful things which are also doing some good to the ecosystems. Now, ecotoxicology was termed by quite a few scientists, and it was first defined by René Truhaut in 1969. And as from the term, we see that it comes from two words and two subjects, that is ecology as well as toxicology. Now, this aims to assess the impact of chemicals not only on the individual people or on individuals, but on the populations and also the whole ecosystems. So that is why it is very important to understand the toxicity risk assessment, the hazard assessments in a certain place. And even if anybody comes to know that some toxic thing has been applied to a farm or even to a road or even to a water in certain places, then immediately that water should be shut off for human consumption and also for other activities, so that the people and the living beings, the biota, are not affected due to these contaminants. Now, initially the important tools of the environmental toxicology that were to actually detect certain toxic residues in the environment, in the individual organisms, and then also testing the toxicity of certain chemicals on the animals. So if you go to any testing laboratory, you will find that the mixture of the chemicals, even for example any new chemical which is coming into the market, it could be a dye which is to be applied to the hair, or it could be any cosmetic product. So first there is something which is written on the label. If you flip the cover, you always see that this has been tested on animals, or it has been tested on a certain population of humans for quite a period of time, and they also observe the report that there is no adverse toxic reaction or effect which has been observed. But of course certain people may be more sensitive than others, because our immunology, our toxic reactions in the body, our metabolisms are all different and hereditary in nature, and therefore, and also elderly and the infants, they may also be affected. They may have certain dermatitis, and these toxic response mechanisms may be different for certain people. Therefore, testing a toxic product is very important in the laboratory and also at the individual level. Now, we can also define ecotoxicology, which was given by Forbes and Forbes in the year 1994, where it is defined as a field of study which integrates the ecological and toxicological effects of chemical pollutants on populations, on communities and ecosystem, with the fate. That means it includes the transport of the chemical, the biotransformation of the chemical, and the breakdown of certain pollutants in the environment. So this is a more comprehensive definition of the term, and we are able to understand the concept and also principle behind ecotoxicology more clearly and precisely from this definition given by Forbes and Forbes in the year 1994. Now, at an individual level, the toxicants can exert certain toxic effects either on the biochemical level or at the molecular or the physiological structure, and the function of the living tissues can also be damaged, and that can have serious consequences. Now here in this figure, you can find the figure of a DNA strand, which is a double helix model, and we also find the chromosomes. So certain chemicals can insert, it can affect certain insertions, it can affect certain deletions in arms of the chromosome, bringing about a change in the genetic material. So if a certain part of the genetic material is duplicated, or if it is deleted, or there are also certain inborn errors of metabolism, and a single gene codes for a single amino acid. This is a concept that we know. So there can be also certain coding errors in this basic functional and structural mechanism in the human body, and all this can be disturbed just because of human behavior, just because of introduction of certain toxic chemicals, hazardous chemicals, which can come from the biomedical waste, it can come from the electronic waste, it can come from the air pollutants, from the industrial processes, and also from the water processes, like where several of the hazardous chemicals are released. For example, the tanning industries, the textile industries, they all pollute the nearby lakes without the proper treatment technology being followed. So ultimately, we are getting affected, the living beings are affected, and certain diseases take a very long time to be manifested, and this is also known as, referred to as the chronic toxicity, where it takes several years. For example, in the case of arsenic toxicity, or also in the case of certain problems related to mercury toxicity and so on, which we will discuss shortly. Now, there are categories of pollutants. So we have the infectious agents or the biological agents which are causing toxicity, and then we also have certain industrial pollutants and the chemicals, and this can also involve organic compounds like the volatile organic compounds or the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, the PCBs, and also the heavy metals like mercury, lead, cadmium, nickel, gold, arsenic, selenium, then chromium, and also thallium. So all these are causing deleterious effects in the human beings. So what are the influences, or what are the factors which have influenced the development of this ecotoxicology globally? Now globally, if we see, the first thing that was noted was DDT, which was sprayed, and which is an organochlorine compound, and here this DDT had a lot of effects on the thinning of the bird shells, and also we find that there were a lot of problems with DDT, either as endocrine disruptors and cause certain cases also causing a lot of toxicity in the human health. And also we find the cadmium, which caused the Itai disease in Japan, also referred to as the ouch disease, mercury in Japan, then there were PCBs in Japan and Taiwan, then dioxins, we will discuss about this, and later on in 1960, when Rachel Carson came up with the book on Silent Spring, then people became more and more aware to these environmental toxins and how we need to be prepared for the same. Now, the first that we will discuss is the mercury toxicity. So in an area in Japan, certain industrial processes which came out from the Chiso factory corporation, they released mercury, methyl mercury, into the Shirauni Bay, into the Minamata Bay and the river, and the fishes were contaminated, and there were also the conversion of inorganic to organic methyl mercury by these fishes by the anaerobic methylation process. And when the human beings and the people they ingested and took these fish containing products like shellfish and all that, they were contaminated with this mercury. Then a strange disease was noticed, which was referred to as the Minamata disease, referred to the place. And this mercury toxicity, it caused paralysis of the limbs, loss in vision, and a lot of neurological behavioral problems, because mercury can also cross the blood-brain barrier and it can cause irreversible effects in the human beings. So here there were a lot of problems related to the mercury toxicity. Another important toxic study which is important and which was also a useful thing studied in the domain of ecotoxicology is that of the chromium toxicity. So chromium, many of you may be working in the laboratories, and even in the 10th and the 12th standard, you would have conducted experiments. It is a yellow compound, and also potassium dichromate is found in the laboratories, which is slightly orangish in color. So this is used in the fertilizers, in the production of paints, in the electroplating industries, in tanning, in the paper and pulp. So it's used in several industries. And it causes a lot of problems like chlorosis or necrosis in the plants and toxic to the humans. Now, Kanpur in India, this has a predominance of the leather industries. Around 400 or more of these leather industries are there, located on the banks of the river Ganga in the Jajmau area. And here we find that many of the water containing bodies and the groundwater is contaminated seriously with this chromium containing compounds. So now, if we see certain reports from the newspapers and from the journals, it is quite shocking, and it is observed that the villages in Kanpur, they drink, when the water is coming out from the pumps, the hand water pump, they drink the neon green water and they live near a toxic waste dump. So obviously from the waste, this has trickled into the groundwater, and this in Khan Chandpur and the surrounding villages, they are contaminated with the carcinogenic heavy metal, where 45,000 tons of the toxic waste is dumped nearby. So in chromium, the trivalent chromium and hexavalent chromium states are observed, and we are more concerned about the hexavalent chromium, and the trivalent can be converted to hexavalent due to the conditions that are prevailing in the environment. It depends on the pH, on the alkalinity of the surrounding and so on. And so this hexavalent chromium is really toxic to health. It is carcinogenic, and that can cause a certain lot of problems with the health of the people. So here you find in this waste dump that the chrome sulfate is used in the chrome sulfate manufacturing industries, and that is used as a tanning agent for leather, and it is not toxic in itself, but the improperly treated waste is being dumped there, and that leads to the formation of hexavalent chromium, and that is actually giving rise to certain issues. Now, in the same way, there is also cadmium toxicity. So cadmium is used in the manufacture of certain rechargeable batteries and in alloys, and this also enters the food chain through the industrial activities. Now, there was an issue in Japan where the cadmium contaminated rice was found, and the itai disease, which I mentioned earlier, it was a painful disease of the bones, and the knees and the bones of the people were affected because it also causes bone mineralization. So cadmium, if you see even in the coal, there is only 0.05 ppm which is present. But this cadmium, when the coal is burnt, when that is burnt, then we find that it comes out as a ash which is found, and then this ash can be dumped in certain basins in the soil, and then that again can be revegetated with soil and so on. And then the scientists have observed that the cadmium can even then be accumulated in the plants and also in the soil. So that means the cadmium moves through the food chain. And then we have also seen that when it moves through the food chain, finally in the humans, this concentration increases by a factor of even 50 to 60 times. So then the cadmium toxicity can be even more. So now you will find the details and the root cause of how the cadmium entered the rice and how the humans were affected with this disease causing severe arthritis and bone beetling. Pesticides. Now this is also of serious concern, where in several places the pesticides have been sprayed with endosulfan. In Kasargod, in Kerala, this was there, and many of the people were actually affected, and they suffered, and also the infants had born, they had congenital abnormalities, teratogenic effects. They are also referred to as the birth defects. So genetic abnormalities were seen in the children, and here you see that a farm which is sprayed entirely using certain toxic chemicals, and then people are also rallying and saying that we need to ban these harmful pesticides which are very harmful to human health and also to the ecosystems. So we need to know the source from where our food comes, the agricultural produce, because apples, if they are sprayed with pesticides, they can contain a very high concentration of these compounds. In the same way, certain other food products. So therefore, there are alternatives. Sustainable organic farming, sustainable alternatives are there for sustainable food production, and this is also very important, where we can check the control and the release of certain harmful toxic substances and dispersal of the same into the food chain and also into the environment. Organic compounds. Now in this, dioxin is a very important study, and this is a colorless crystal that is made up of oxygen, hydrogen, carbon and also chlorine. So around 75 types of this dioxin are known, and it is also coming from the byproducts from various industrial processes. Now we also find this dioxin in the Agent Orange, which was used in the Vietnam War, and that is a very toxic compound of this war, and this caused a very severe acne problem in the people who were affected with this compound. And again, dioxin itself it is persistent, it remains in the environment for a long period of time, it is not biodegradable, so this again can cause irreversible effects. A very important study that was observed in the Times Beach in Missouri. This was somewhere in the year 1983, and it is towards the west of St. Louis, and here we find that there was the population of only 2,400 people, and they were completely evacuated. So why they were evacuated? Because there was one land, and here again they contained certain industrial and the toxic chemicals, and here we find that the land was finally sold to a government, and after the purchase and the selling of the land to the government for almost 30 or 40 US dollars, then they found that this land and the area of the town was completely contaminated with the dioxin, because the road dust, the town's road dust was sprayed using an oil which contained dioxin. So therefore, there were a lot of studies which came up. There was also the EPA which sat, and also the draft reports which came up, and then still decades or 20 years, I would say, of the controversy has occurred due to this dioxin and the health effects on the environment and on the human health. So there are several cases which have been reported. So the fate of the chemicals in the environment. So when any chemical comes into the environment, what will be the fate of that environment? What about the movement of the environment in the systems, and also at the organism level? And at the organism level, how these are being eliminated from the body, that is important. So there are certain biomarkers which are a chemical or chemicals that give a measure of the exposure and also of the toxic effect. They are classified as biomarkers of exposure and that of toxic effects. And then some examples of biomarkers, they range from the inhibition of acetylcholinesterase in the nervous system of the animals to the thinning of the bird shells in the eggshells in the birds, and then they can establish certain gaps between the lab and the field by giving direct evidence of whether a particular animal or a plant or an ecosystem is being affected by such kinds of pollution. Now, there are several toxicity tests which are conducted on several animals in the laboratory under controlled conditions, and this is also very important as they can provide useful information about the regulation and also registration of certain toxic chemicals. So these are some of the tests. For example, there could be bacterial test, then algal test, and also we can have tests which are conducted on the zebrafish embryos in the laboratory. Many of the environmental scientists are working on such toxicological studies, also on the earthworms, on the sediment dwelling organisms, and also on the freshwater and the marine fishes. Therefore, all this toxicity assessment test, they are used to make assessments of the hazard and also of the risk and the potential which can cause the harm and the probability that the harm will be caused for human health. So therefore, hazard is a product of exposure and toxicity, and any compound or a chemical with moderate toxicity but high exposure that can cause more damage than a very toxic chemical with a very low exposure. So here again, this is explaining the concept of the dose concentration principle, which was explained by Paracelsus long ago. So my dear learners, today we discussed about ecotoxicology, some basic concepts and principles, and we explained this with the help of a lot of the reports and the observations that have been given by scientists and researchers right from the 1960s. And we also discussed about the toxicity test, which is also important for the regulation and registration of the chemicals that are being used for various purposes, including the industrial application. And I hope you've had a good understanding in this session. I thank you for your patient participation. Thank you.
Do you wish to be part of a television studio like this, or any other media system, or already part of any media system, want to enhance a new set of skills? Welcome to School of Journalism and New Media Studies. Here in the School of Journalism and New Media Studies, we are offering program for all set of people to learn and enhance their media skills. The vision of School of Journalism and New Media Studies is to generate a new set of professionals in the area of media and communication studies with understanding about role of media in the national development and global understanding. We offer innovative programs in the field of journalism and mass communication that sets the benchmark of high quality learning and teaching process at the national level. We offer these programs across the country with the help of our regional network as well as study center. Same manner, many of our programs are offered through online mode with a sophisticated learning management system. SOGNMS offers programs from PhD in journalism and mass communication till certificate level. We have masters in journalism and mass communication. The eligibility is bachelor's degree, and we are introducing this program in 3 languages: Hindi, Tamil and English. Students from national and international students can join either through online mode as well as in the distance mode. We have 4 postgraduate diploma programs, specialized areas in the field of development communication, digital media, electronic media, and journalism and mass communication program. And all these 4 programs are available in distance mode. 2 programs are available in online mode, development communication and digital media. And we have specialized certificate program in community radio. Ignou employs various media and communication tools for better teaching and learning process. School of Journalism and New Media Studies utilizes this media system for delivering all our programs. Come and join with us for exploring a new career and enhance your media skills.
अजीज़ तलबा व तलबात और अजीज़ नाजरीन आदाब। आज एक ऐसे अदीब की तहरीर, ऐसे अदीब के मुतालिक, اس کے حالات زندگی اور اس کا ادبی سفر، اس پر بات کی جائے گی، جن کی شناخت اردو ادب میں ایک مزاحیہ نگار کی حیثیت سے زیادہ رہی ہے۔ ان کا نام ہے شوکت تھانوی۔ چونکہ ان کا تعلق مغربی اتر پردیش کے مظفر نگر ضلع کے تھانہ بھون قصبے سے تھا، اس لیے اپنے نام کے آگے جو اردو کی روایت رہی ہے کہ اپنے نام کے سامنے اپنے قصبے، اپنے گاؤں یا اپنے شہر کا نام لگانے کی، تو انہوں نے اپنے نام کے سامنے تھانوی لگایا، یعنی کہ شوکت تھانوی۔ ان کا اصل نام محمد عمر تھا، اور یہ ان کی ولادت فروری 1904 کو ہوئی، اور ان کا ادبی سفر کافی ایک طویل عرصے تک پھیلا ہے۔ انہوں نے بہت سارے مزاحیہ مضامین لکھے، شاعری بھی کی، یعنی کہ غزلیں بھی کہی ہے، اور چونکہ اس وقت کی روایت جب یہ ان کا ادبی سفر شروع ہوتا ہے، انہوں نے اس وقت کے روایت کے مطابق، یعنی کہ ان سے قبل اخبارات میں، نثر میں اور شاعری میں طنز و مزاح کی روایت ان سے قبل قائم ہو چکی تھی۔ اخبار سے نکلنے والا ایک اخبار جو وہ لکھنؤ سے نکلتا تھا، اس اخبار میں اودھ پنچ جس کا نام تھا، اس میں مزاحیہ مضامین چھپتے رہے تھے۔ اس کے بعد الہ آباد کے ایک بڑے شاعر، یعنی کہ ان کی شناخت بھی اردو میں طنز و مزاح کی بدولت ہے، یعنی اکبر الہ آبادی، ان کی شاعری، ان کی غزلیں، ان کی نظمیں، انہوں نے بھی مزاحیہ اور طنزیہ شاعری کی ہے۔ لہذا شوکت تھانوی نے بھی اپنے دور کی روایت کو سمجھا اور اپنی ایک الگ شناخت بنانے کی کوشش کی۔ ان کے والد کا نام صدیق احمد تھا، اور یہ ان کے والد یعنی کہ ورنداون، یہ اس وقت کی بات ہے جب ہندوستان غلام تھا، ہم آزاد نہیں ہوئے تھے۔ ورنداون میں کوتوال تھے، اور انہوں نے تقریباً ان کے والد صاحب نے 35 سال پولیس محکمہ میں ملازمت کی، اور وہاں سے سبق دوش ہونے یعنی کہ ریٹائر ہونے کے بعد ان کو پینشن ملی، اور پینشن لینے کے بعد یہ کچھ عرصے کے لیے بھوپال میں بس گئے، لیکن بھوپال ان کو راس نہیں آیا، ان کو اتنا اچھا نہیں لگا، اور یہ اس کے بعد لکھنؤ میں آ گئے اور مستقل طور پر یہیں پہ بس گئے۔ لکھنؤ میں آنے کے بعد یعنی کہ شوکت تھانوی کا جو اردو ادب کے متعلق جو ان کا شوق تھا وہ پروان چڑھتا ہے، جبکہ انہوں نے ان کے متعلق شوکت تھانوی نے جو ابتدائی تعلیم ہے وہ گھر پر حاصل کی، اور لکھنؤ میں آنے کے بعد پروان کیوں چڑھا، کیسے چڑھا کہ لکھنؤ میں اس وقت کچھ وہاں کے اردو بولنے کا طریقہ، وہاں کے کام کرنے کا طریقہ، وہاں کے نوابین کے جو وارث تھے ان کو دیکھا دیکھی، ان سے بہت سارے ان کا انداز بات کرنے کا، مطلب بہت ساری روایتیں انہوں نے وہاں سے ان سے سیکھی، اور ان کے دماغ میں یہ بات آئی کہ مجھے اردو میں ایک ایسی صنف کی طرف توجہ دینی چاہیے جس کی بدولت میرا ایک الگ مقام ہو۔ انہوں نے کئی اخباروں میں کالم لکھے، اخبار سے جڑے رہے، اور چونکہ والد صاحب سبق دوش ہو چکے تھے، انہوں نے آل انڈیا ریڈیو میں یعنی کہ جو اس وقت ایک اچھی ملازمت سمجھی جاتی تھی، ریڈیو سے منسلک ہو گئے، ریڈیو سے جڑے، اور وہاں ریڈیو سے جڑنے کے بعد ان کی کچھ مالی دشواریاں काफ़ी हद तक जो है ना वो दूर हो गई। और इन्होंने, जैसे मैंने भी जिक्र किया कि गज़ल भी कहीं, इन्होंने गज़लें ऐसी मतलब इतनी उम्दा या इतनी अच्छी तो नहीं है, लेकिन इनका एक जो है ना शायरी का एक इनका मजमुआ है जो शाये हुआ। और इन्होंने इस मजमुआ के शाये होने के बाद जब इन्होंने मज़ाहिया जो मज़ामीन हैं वो लिखने शुरू किए, इसमें यानी कि एक उस वक्त का एक रिसाला था जिसका नाम माँ बदौलत, उसमें इन्होंने अपने जो मज़ाहिया मज़ामीन हैं वो उसकी बदौलत यानी कि इन्होंने उसमें सीरत और आदात व इस्तवार और बड़े ऐसे अंदाज में मज़ामीन लिखे कि इनका चर्चा दूर दराज अदबी दुनिया में होने लगा। इन्होंने जो गज़लें कही उसका जो मजमुआ है उसका नाम है गोहरिस्तान। और चूँकि इस मजमुए में ऐसी गज़लें भी शामिल हैं जो इंसानी ज़िंदगी यानी कि गज़ल के मुतालिक जो कहा जाता है कि गज़ल के एक शेर में ही मतलब पूरी बात कह दी जाती है, तो इन्होंने ऐसी गज़लें कही जो उस वक्त हिंदुस्तान में आम आदमी, आम इंसान के जो मसाइल थे उनको इन्होंने इसमें पेश किया। क्योंकि उर्दू गज़ल में इंसानी मसाइल को पेश करने का जो की शुरुआत है वो मिर्ज़ा गालिब से शुरू हो जाती है, तो इन्होंने भी इसमें इस मजमुए में इनकी कुछ बेहतरीन गज़लें इसमें शुमार हैं। और इन्होंने इन गज़लों में उस वक्त के अपने वक्त की बहुत सारी जो मसाइल हैं उनको बहुत बेहतरीन तरीके से इन्होंने इसमें पेश किया है। और इनके जो मज़ाहिया जो मज़ामीन हैं उनमें मौज़े उनके मजमुए हैं उनके यानी किताबी शक्ल में जो आए हैं, मौजे तबस्सुम, बहरे तबस्सुम और सैलाब तबस्सुम और तूफ़ान तबस्सुम, यानी कि हर मजमुए के आखिर में तबस्सुम लगा है। इन्होंने यानी कि थानवी को मज़ाहिया जो तहरीरें हैं वो उन्होंने भी इसमें मतलब एक और इनका मजमुआ उसमें शामिल हुआ जो शीश महल के नाम से है। और इसकी जो इस मजमुए में यानी कि शीश महल में जो कलमी तस्वीरें और खाके इन्होंने पेश किए हैं, यानी कि इन कलमी जो तस्वीरें और खाके हैं इनमें इसमें भी थानवी ने वही मज़ाहिया अंदाज इख्तियार किया है। और चूँकि इनका जैसे मैंने बताया कि इन्होंने अपने मज़ाहिया जो शोबा है इसमें बहुत सारी ऐसी तहरीरें इन्होंने पेश की कि इनकी एक शनाख्त बड़ी जल्दी बहुत जल्दी उर्दू दुनिया में जो उर्दू के अदीब थे उनमें कायम हो गई। ऐसा ही आज जिस हम मौजू पर बात करने वाले हैं ये मौजू है स्वदेशी रेल। इनका शौकत थानवी का एक ये मजमून है मज़ाहिया जिसमें स्वदेशी रेल के बारे में इन्होंने कि हिंदुस्तान में जो जब हम आज़ाद हो गए तो स्वदेश अपना देश, अपने देश में हम कैसे खुद मुख्तार बन गए और हालात क्या है, हमारा निज़ाम कैसा था, हमारा निज़ाम कैसा हो गया, इन सब के मुतालिक इन्होंने इसमें इस मजमून में ये बात कही है। 31 दिसंबर का मतलब इस मज़ाहिया मजमून में जो जिक्र कर रहे हैं कि 31 दिसंबर का दिन है और एक ये घर से मतलब एक जो इसके किरदार है वो घर से बाहर निकलते हैं और वो क्योंकि उन्हें वो मन में अपने सोच रहे हैं कि भाई मुझे बाज़ार से हुक्का और उसका नीचा जिसे कहते हैं हुक्का का जो जिसमें हुक्का पकड़ के पिया जाता है उसको नीचा वो ख़रीदना है। और चूँकि ये इन सब को बैठकर आराम कुर्सी पे खाना खा करके इन सब का तसव्वुर कर रहे होते हैं और तभी 31 दिसंबर इनको वंदे मातरम की आवाज़ें आनी शुरू हो जाती हैं। और चूँकि उस वक्त माहौल ऐसा था मुल्क में कि हर तरफ हुब्बुल वतनी का जज्बा लिए हर ہندوستانی فرد گھوم رہا تھا، یعنی کہ اپنے ملک کو آزاد کرانے کا جذبہ اس کے دلوں میں ہوتا ہے. تو بندے ماترم کی آواز یہ سنتے ہیں، اور چونکہ جب یہ کانپور جانے کے لیے اسٹیشن پر پہنچتے ہیں تو اسٹیشن پر پہنچنے سے قبل ہی ایک میدان جو پڑتا ہے جس میں بہت ساری بھیڑ اکٹھا ہے، اس بھیڑ سے ان کو آواز آ رہی ہے بندے ماترم بندے ماترم. اور یہ وہاں جاتے ہیں، اس میدان میں جاتے ہیں اور دیکھتے ہیں کہ جو ایک بہت بڑے لمبے چوڑے ایک لیڈر ہے، یعنی کہ سیاست داں ہیں، اور وہ اس میدان میں بیچ میں کھڑے، اس کے چاروں طرف ہجوم ہے، بہت سارے ایک بھیڑ ہے. اور چونکہ اس کا لباس اس دور کے مطابق کھدر کا کرتا، وہ جو گھٹنوں سے نیچے تک اس کے پہنے ہوئے ہے، اور اس کے نیچے سفید دھوتی اور گاندھی ٹوپی سر پہ رکھے ہوئے ہے. اور وہ سیاسی رہنما، سیاسی لیڈر ہندوستان کی آزادی کے بارے میں بات کرتا ہے کہ آج 31 دسمبر کو ہم آزاد ہو گئے، ہم خود مختار ہو گئے ہیں، یعنی کہ سودیسی اپنائیے، سودیسی اپنائیے، یعنی کہ چرخہ، جیسے چرخے کے لیے کہا کہ اس وقت ایک تحریک بھی چلائی گئی تھی ہمارے ملک میں کہ انگریزی حکومت، یعنی کہ انگلستان سے جو سامان بن کر آتا ہے ہم اس کا بائیکاٹ کرے، اور اس کے بدلے میں ہم سودیسی ہندوستان میں بنی چیزوں کا استعمال کریں. تو اس کے لیے اس وقت کے بڑے سیاسی لیڈر مہاتما گاندھی نے چرخہ، جو کہ سے آبسود کات کے ہندوستان میں اس وقت کپڑے کی بہت زیادہ کمی تھی، اور کھڈی سے بنا ہوا یعنی کہ گاڑھے اور خدر کا کرتا، اس کو پہننے کی ایک روایت تھی، اور وہ اس پہ زیادہ زور دیا جا رہا تھا. تو اس میدان میں سیاسی لیڈر انہی سب باتوں کو بار بار دہرا رہے تھے. اب وہ بار بار دہرانے کا بھی ایک واقعہ ہے کہ چونکہ وہ چاروں طرف گھوم رہے ہیں، کبھی مغرب، کبھی مشرق، کبھی شمال، کبھی جنوب، یعنی کہ وہ کبھی اتر، کبھی دکشن، پورب، پشچم، ایسے چاروں طرف گھوم رہے ہیں. یعنی کہ جب ان کی طرف اس سیاسی لیڈر کا منہ ہوتا ہے تو کچھ، کیونکہ ہوا بھی تیز چلی ہے تو کچھ الفاظ ان کو سنائی دیتے ہیں، اور آخر کار ان کو صرف یہ 31 دسمبر ہم سودیسی کو توجہ دے، یہ ان کو یاد رہ جاتے ہیں. اسی کے یعنی کہ اس بھیڑ سے فارغ ہونے کے بعد، اس بھیڑ سے یہ نکلنے کے بعد میں جب کانپور جانے کے لیے ٹرین پکڑتے ہیں، اور ٹرین پکڑنے کے لیے اسٹیشن پہنچتے ہیں، تو وہاں جو اسٹیشن پر زیادہ بھیڑ نہیں ہوتی، اور چونکہ ان کی ایک عادت بنی ہوئی ہے جو یہ ہے کہ میں بغیر ٹکٹ سفر نہیں کروں گا، تو اپنی عادت کے مطابق یہ جو بابو ہے، کلرک ہے، ٹکٹ جو بابو ہے اس کے پاس جاتے ہیں اور اس کو کہتے ہیں کہ مجھے کانپور کا ایک ٹکٹ دے دیجیے. چونکہ ٹکٹ 1 روپیہ 13 آنے کا ہوتا ہے، پھر بھی وہ ان سے پورے 3 روپے مانگتا ہے. تو یہ سن کر ہکا بکا رہ جاتے ہیں کہ بابو اتنے زیادہ پیسے کیسے لے سکتا ہے. تو اس نے کہا کہ جی ابھی میں نے پرسوں جو سفر کیا تھا 1 روپیہ 13 آنے کا ٹکٹ تھا، آپ ایسے مطلب اتنے زیادہ رقم کیوں لینا چاہتے ہیں مجھ سے؟ اب رقم اس لیے استعمال کر رہے ہیں کیونکہ وہ وقت وہ 3 روپے بھی بڑی بات تھی اس وقت میں. تو انہوں نے کہا، یعنی کہ ٹکٹ بابو کہتا ہے، ان کی طرف غور سے دیکھتا ہے اور یہ کہتا ہے کہ اب آج آپ کو پتا ہے 31 دسمبر ہے، اب ہم خود مختار ہے، اب سودیسی ہے، یہ ریل اب سودیسی ہے، اب انگریزوں کی ریل نہیں رہی ہے، یعنی کہ جو برٹش جو حکمراں تھے ان کی ریل نہیں ہے، اب سب کچھ ہمارا ہے یہاں پر. تو اب آپ کو دیکھیے ٹکٹ اتنے کا ہی ہے، لینا ہے تو لیجئے ورنہ یہاں سے جائیے، صاف کہہ دیتا ہے. لیکن جب وہ چلنے لگتا ہے تو ٹکٹ بابو کہتا ہے کہ ان کو آواز لگاتا ہے اور پھر کہتا ہے کہ آئیے اگر میں 2.5 روپے تک کا ٹکٹ دے سکتا ہوں. تو یہ کہتا ہے جی یہ تو 2.5 بھی بہت زیادہ ہے. یعنی کہ ایک ٹکٹ کے داموں میں بابو کیسے گراوٹ کر رہا ہے اور 2.5 روپے سے 2 پہ آتا ہے. اور جب وہ 2 روپے دینے میں بھی کے لیے بھی راضی نہیں ہوتا تو یہ چل پڑتا ہے اور کہتا ہے کہ پھر سے ٹکٹ بابو کہتا ہے لائیے 1 روپیہ 13 نہیں دیجیے. تو پھر وہ کہتا ہے نہیں میں 1 روپیہ ہی دوں گا. تو کیونکہ اب یہ اپنی اس پہ آ جاتے ہیں کہ میرے پاس میں کچھ بچانے کی کوشش کروں تو وہ 1 روپے میں ٹکٹ دینے کے لیے تیار ہو جاتے ہیں. اب 1 روپے میں ٹکٹ لے تو لیا لیکن یہاں جیسے ہی وہ پلیٹ فارم پر پہنچتے تو گاڑی کھڑی ہے لیکن اس میں نہ انجن آگے ہے اور نہ اس میں انجن پیچھے ہوتا ہے. 2-4 مسافر اس میں پہلے سے بیٹھے ہوئے ہیں. تو یہ یعنی کہ جو اس کا کردار ہے یہ اس میں اپنا ٹرنک اٹھا کر کے اپنی سیٹ پہ رکھ دیتا ہے. اور چونکہ ٹکٹ کے جو بات ہوتی ہے وہ 2nd کلاس کی ہوتی ہے, ٹکٹ لینے کے بعد یہ اس میں آگے پیچھے الٹ پلٹ کے غور سے دیکھتا ہے. اس ٹکٹ پہ نہ اس پہ فاصلہ لکھا ہوتا ہے کہاں سے کہاں تک, نہ یہ کتنا کلومیٹر ہے اور نہ یہ لکھا کہ کہاں سے کہاں تک جانا. اس پہ کچھ نہیں, صرف اور صرف ٹکٹ بابو کے اس پہ سائن ہوتے ہیں. اور جب یہ اسے کہتا ہے کہ اس پہ تو کچھ بھی نہیں ہے, بولا اب آپ کو پتا اب سب کچھ سودیسی ہے. اب ہمارے ہندوستانی ٹکٹ چھپنے میں قریب 4-5 دن لگ سکتے ہیں, لہٰذا تب تک یہی ہمارا ٹکٹ یہی جو ہے منظور کیا جائے گا. آپ کو آم کھانے ہیں یا گٹھلیاں گننی ہے, مطلب ایسے ایک محاورہ بھی کہتے ہیں. اور آپ کو سفر کیجئے, آپ کو کوئی دقت نہیں آئے گی سفر میں. تو یہ ٹکٹ لے کر جاتے ہیں. وہاں جب کچھ دیر بیٹھے رہنے کے بعد بھی ٹرین کا چلنے کا وقت ہونے کے بعد کچھ اس میں 2-4 مسافر بھی آتے ہیں. اور چونکہ 2nd کلاس ڈبہ ہوتا ہے اس میں 8-10 آدمی گاؤں کے پگڑی پہنے ہوئے ہاتھ میں لٹھ لیے ہوئے وہ آتے ہیں. یہ کہنے کی کوشش کرتا ہے کہ بھائی یہ تو 2nd کلاس ہے, آپ اس میں نہیں جا سکتے. یعنی کہ ان کے حلیے اور ان کے لباس, ان کے لاٹھی کو دیکھ کر کے کہتا ہے کہ یہ یعنی کہ یہ انسان 2nd کلاس میں سفر کرنے کے قابل نہیں ہے. تو ان میں سے کچھ لوگ جو وہاں یعنی کہ مشرقی یو پی کی جو بھاشا ہے ہاں ہم کو سب معلوم ہے, تو اتنی بات کہہ کر وہ بیٹھ جاتے ہیں. اور چونکہ وہ یہ بھی کہتے ہیں کہ اب سب کچھ سودیسی ہے, اب انگریز کی ریل نہیں ہے کہ انگریز بابو تو 1st کلاس 2nd کلاس میں چلے گا اور ہندوستانی جو ہے وہ 3rd کلاس میں سفر کرے گا, اور وہ بھی ان کی رہنمائی پر. تو اتنی بات سوچ رہے ہوتے ہیں, لیکن یہ جو اس کا اس مضمون میں جس کو کردار کے طور پر شوکت تھانوی نے پیش کیا ہے وہ اسٹیشن ماسٹر کے پاس جاتا ہے اور یہ کہتا ہے کہ جی اس 2nd کلاس میں کچھ دیہاتی لوگ چڑھ گئے ہیں, آپ لہٰذا آپ ان کو اس میں سے اتاریے. لیکن وہ بھی اس کو وہی جواب دیتا ہے جو وہ مطلب وہ دیہاتی جو مسافر ہوتے ہیں ان کا جواب ہوتا ہے. آخرکار یہ اپنا سامان اٹھانے کے لیے جب ایک کولی کو تلاشتا ہے تو اس کی ایک لباس یعنی کہ بمشکل ایک اس کو کولی نظر آتا ہے, اور اس کو جب وہ کہتا ہے کہ بھائی میرا سامان میرے ڈبے تک پہنچا دیجئے, تو کولی نہ ہو کر کے وہ اسسٹنٹ اسٹیشن ماسٹر ہوتا ہے اور وہ غصے سے کہتا ہے کہ میں آپ کو کولی دکھائی دیتا ہوں, میں تو اسسٹنٹ اسٹیشن ماسٹر ہوں. تو وہ یہ چپ ہو جاتا ہے اور کولی کی تلاش کرتا ہے, لیکن کولی اس کو نہیں ملتا. آخرکار کیا اپنے سامان کو گھسیٹ کر ڈبے تک لے جاتا ہے. اور ایسے ہی یعنی جب اس میں ڈبے میں جا کر بیٹھ جاتا ہے اطمینان سے, تو آپس میں مسافر چرچا کر رہے ہوتے ہیں, اور وہ چرچا یہ ہوتی ہے کہ بھائی یہ ٹرین مطلب کانپور جائے گی یا اس کے دوسری طرف جائے گی، یعنی کہ یہ پوچھنا بھی ضروری ہے. تو کچھ مسافر یہ جواب دیتے ہیں کہ جہاں کی یہ ٹرین کے گاڑی کے بھرنے کے فل جب بھر جائے گی تب اس کے بعد اس بات کا فیصلہ کیا جائے گا کہ ٹرین کس سمت جائے گی. اور چونکہ یہ اسٹیشن ماسٹر کے اختیار میں ہوتا ہے. آخر کار ٹرین جو ہے نا گاڑی بھر جاتی ہے اور کانپور والی سمت میں ہی اس میں انجن جڑ جاتا ہے. اور انجن تو آ کر ٹرین سے جڑ گیا، لیکن وہاں اسٹیشن ماسٹر ہری جھنڈی کی بجائے پہلے لال جھنڈی دکھاتا ہے اور پھر اس کو جو ہے نا ہری جھنڈی دکھاتا ہے، اور آخر میں اس کو یہ کہتا ہے کہ آپ کو سنائی نہیں دیتا، میں کب سے چلا رہا ہوں، جھنڈی دکھا رہا ہوں، آپ چلا نہیں رہے. تب ڈرائیور کہتا ہے کہ اس میں میری غلطی نہیں ہے، ٹرین میں کوئلہ نہیں ہے. تو جو مسالچی ہے، جو کوئلہ جلانے والا ہے، وہ بازار سے کوئلہ لانے گیا ہے، اور میں نے اس کو بولا، یعنی کہ اس مسالچی کا نام ہوتا ہے للو، اس کو للو فائر مین کے نام سے اس کو جانتے ہیں، اور میں نے اس کو بولا ہے کہ آپ کوئلہ لے کر آئیے. تو یہ ہندوستانی نظام کو دکھا رہے ہیں کہ آزادی کے یعنی کہ ملنے کے بعد ہمارے حالات کیسے تھے، ہمارا نظام کیسا تھا. تو یہ للو فائر مین کو میں نے بولا ہے کہ آپ رکاب گنج کے چوراہے سے یا ایس گنج کے پھاٹک کے پاس سے کوئلہ لے کر آئیے، چونکہ رات زیادہ ہو چکی ہے، دکانیں بند ہو رہی ہیں. اور للو فائر مین بمشکل ایک گٹھری میں کوئلہ لے کر پہنچتا ہے، بڑی مطلب اس کو دیر ہو جاتی ہے، اور کوئلہ وہ انجن میں جھونکتا ہے. اور جب ٹرین چلنے لگتی ہے، یعنی کہ ٹرین چلتی ہے، تو کچھ دور جانے کے بعد ٹرین بند ہو کو پھر روکنا پڑتا ہے. آخر کار کیا ایک پیغام آتا ہے کہ شہر کے جو کانگریس کے جو صدر ہیں، لیڈر ہیں، وہ آ رہے ہیں، یعنی کہ ان کو لینے گئے ہیں، اور ان کو لانے کے لیے کچھ آدمی گئے ہیں. تو ہمارے لیڈر یعنی کہ سیاسی رہنما کو لے کر آئیں گے تب یہ ٹرین چلے گی. اور آخر میں وہ آ جاتے ہیں، ٹرین چلتی ہے، اور ٹرین جب چلنے کے ترنت بعد تھوڑے اگلے کچھ دوری پر دوسرے فاصلے پر دوسرا اسٹیشن ہوتا ہے، تو وہاں وہ ٹرین جا کر رکتی ہے. اس ٹرین میں جو اسٹیشن ماسٹر ہوتا ہے اس ٹرین کے ڈرائیور سے کہتا ہے کہ آپ کی یہ کیسے ہمت ہوئی، میرے بغیر سنگل دیے آپ اس پلیٹ فارم پر ٹرین لے کر آ گئے. تو ان دونوں میں کہا سنی ہو جاتی ہے. آخر کہا سنی کیا، گتھم گتھا، دھکا مکی، اور ان میں تماچا یعنی کہ مار پیٹ ہونے لگتی ہے. ان کو کسی طرح اس میں ان کو ان کے بیچ میں ان کو سمجھوتا کرایا جاتا ہے. اور آخر میں زور سے چلا کر کے ایک گارڈ یہ کہتا ہے کہ جی آپ یہ دیکھیے جو سامنے سے جو مال گاڑی آ رہی ہے وہ اسی لائن پر آ رہی ہے. اور تب اسٹیشن ماسٹر چلا کہتا ہے کہ سبھی جو مسافر ہے ٹرین کو خالی کر دو. ٹرین مسافر بہت افراتفری میں ٹرین کو خالی کرتے ہیں، اور آخر میں وہ ٹرین آپس میں ٹکرا جاتی ہے، لڑ جاتی ہے. ٹرین کا ایک شیشہ ٹوٹ کر کے وہ کہتا ہے کردار جو ہے کہ میرے منہ پر گرا، اور میں چونک کر اٹھ گیا. میں نے دیکھا میں تو سو رہا تھا، یہ تو سب خواب و خیال میں تھا. اور اس میں میں نے دیکھا کہ اب تو ٹرین تو جا چکی ہے، اب اس کے سوائے کچھ نہیں ہو سکتا ہے کہ رات میں آرام کیا جائے. اسی کے ساتھ میں یہ مزاحیہ مضمون یہاں ختم ہو جاتا ہے. اور چونکہ یہ ایک بہت ہی عمدہ مضمون ہے، اس میں شوکت تھانوی کی جو صلاحیت ہے وہ شباب پر نظر آتی ہے. اور اس کے ساتھ ہی ہم اپنے اس مضمون کو اختتام تک لے جاتے. پھر ملاقات ہوگی. آداب.
Are you a fresh graduate? Do you want to fulfill your educational aspiration by pursuing higher education in various interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary areas like environmental science, environment and occupational health, philosophy, sustainability science, folklore and culture studies? If yes, the School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies offers various programs like Master's Program, Graduate Program, Postgraduate Diploma, Certificate and Appreciation Program. The school offers 5 Master's Program. Master of Science, Environmental Science. The eligibility criteria for MSc Environmental Science is Graduate in Science, BTech, BE, Agriculture Graduate, Forestry Graduate and Veterinary Graduate. School also offers Masters in Environment and Occupational Health, Masters in Sustainability Science, Masters in Philosophy and Masters in Folklore and Culture Studies. The eligibility criteria for these 4 Masters program is graduate in any discipline. The school also offers various socially relevant and need-based PG Diploma program like PG Diploma in Sustainability Science, PG Diploma in Environment and Occupational Health, PG Diploma in Folklore and Culture Studies and PG Diploma in Migration and Diaspora Studies. The school also offers PG Certificate in Climate Change and Avshist Prabandhan mein Praman Patra. The school also offers 2 doctoral programs, PhD in Environmental Science and PhD in Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies. The school offers various innovative technologies and multimedia for providing a very excellent student support system. The study material is of high quality. The learner support is provided through Gyan Darshan, Gyan Vani, IRC, Swayam Prabha and Swayam channel of Ignou. For more detail, please log in to Ignou website. For online admission in these programs, visit school site and also the Samarth online education portal of Ignou. So please join these programs and fulfill your educational aspiration.
Baskar, friends. I welcome you all in this class of mathematics. So in the last class, we discussed about limits and how to take limit of a function. Now, we had learned last time some standard results that in case of failure of direct substitution method DSM, what should we do? And we learned several techniques, and we also saw some standard results for taking limits to be used, but we did not solve example on that. We will solve example later on, but today I will give you the concept of infinite limit and then right hand and left hand limits. So once this is clear, then we will solve various examples so that the method will be clear to you. So concept of infinite limit first. Okay. Let us consider limit of sequence. You know what is sequence? We have learnt earlier. So suppose this is a sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So where is this sequence leading? This is leading to, I think, infinity. Now another sequence 1 by 2, 2 by 3, 3 by 4, 4 by 5, and so on. Now you can see that this sequence is leading to some finite value. So if I go further in this sequence and if I take the 3 decimal digit, so its value will come like 0.888, then 0.9, 0.909, and so on. So because you see in this sequence term 999 upon 1000 and playing like this will also come. So it is equal to 0.999. So this sequence is approaching towards 1, but it is not exactly 1. So if I take 1 minus 0.999, it will be 0.001. So as I go on increasing the nth term, as n increases, you will see that this difference will become lower, and the value of Sn will become more and more nearer to 1. So this is the concept of limit, that we say that as n tends to infinite, the xn will tend to some finite value, and that is called its limit. Now let us see some different type of sequence. So there are sequence which increase or decrease indefinitely. Increase or decrease say this is a sequence, say zero, -1, -3, -8. So the sequence is decreasing and it will reach to -infinity. Another sequence 1, 5, 10, 17, 26 and so on. So it will reach to +infinity. Now there are sequences which increase or decrease at decreasing rate. Say 1, 1/2, 1/3, 1/4 and so on. So you see this sequence is going towards not exactly 0 but towards 0. Again another sequence you take 1/2, 2/3 as we checked earlier, 3/4, 4/5 and so on. So this is approaching towards 1. Now there are many other type of sequence, maybe third type, fluctuating. Okay, and with wider margin. So that we cannot conclude anything. Maybe 1, 5, -7, 17, -31 and so on. There may be sequences which have no tendency to increase or decrease. Such that -1, 1, again -1, 1, minus 1, 1, either neither increasing nor decreasing. There may be sequence which fluctuate with decreasing margin. They fluctuate. We have seen wider margin. Here it is decreasing margin. So it may be minus 1 by 2, then plus 1 by 4, then minus 1 by 8, then plus 1 by 16, and so on. So they will reach to some finite value. You see, if I draw graph, this is x-axis, this is y-axis. So as x is increasing, the fx is so the fluctuation will go on decreasing, you see. So at least it is leading to some particular value around which it is fluctuating. So what we conclude from this? We conclude that we can categorize them in basically 3 types of sequence. Number 1, they are leading towards infinity, either plus infinity or minus infinity. Then the other sequences are which are leading towards some finite value. Okay, and there are third category of sequence which are leading nowhere. Nowhere. So what is important here? The second one, those sequences which are leading towards some finite value. So that is important. We can say that it has a limiting value, and we define it, limit, as n tends to infinity. The value of x10 is equal to some value L, and we call it tends to L. Now this is not the complete definition according to mathematics. So let us define the complete mathematical definition. So when a function or a sequence has a limit, if there is the sequence is converging, it means that as n is increasing, the sequence goes to a limiting value as xn, as n tends to, at is good, it is not infinity, at is goes nearer and nearer to infinity, it becomes larger and larger, then the value of xn, it becomes nearer and nearer to L. So suppose if epsilon there exists and epsilon greater than equal to 0, a very small quantity, very small number, very small. So in that case, the error, that is xn minus L, let us take mod, that whether difference between xn and L will be less than equal to epsilon. Now epsilon is a Greek word, and it is defined in mathematics in such a way that it is a small quantity. So howsoever small we can choose, 0.01, 0.001, 0.401, howsoever we can choose small epsilon, this identity should satisfy, whereas there is a number n which is greater than 1, and for all values n greater than equal to n, the value of xn minus L difference will be less than equal to epsilon. So once this is satisfied, then we call it as limit of xn as n tends to infinity is equal to L, because as n increases, you just understand it that as n increases, a series is there, 1 by 2, 2 by 3, 3 by 4, and so on. So as n increasing, the nth term, the difference between xn minus L is going to decrease. So here L is 1 here, because it is approaching towards 1. So as it go on increasing, difference between the nth term and the L, that is the limiting value, difference is coming smaller and smaller, and we can take whatever small value epsilon, only thing that accordingly n will be adjusted, n will increase. So after so many terms, a situation will come that after that value of n, whatever xn we will take, the difference between xn minus L will be less than equal to epsilon. So this is the proper definition of the limit. Now let us understand the left hand and right hand limit. You see, this is real number line, okay, and say x is equal to a is this point. Left hand limit means that we can approach towards a either from left or from right. So this is x, this is y axis. This is y axis. So as the x approaches towards a, if a function is there, what value y will approach? It means fx will approach. So that will be the limiting value for that function. You have understood about this limiting value for sequence. Now let us apply it for a function. Say y is equal to fx. So similarly we define that limit when x tends to a, value of fx is equal to L So as x tends to a, approaches a, the value of fx will be equal to L if the value of fx minus L is less than equal to epsilon and n is greater than 1. So for all n greater than equal to n, the value of fx minus L will be less than equal to epsilon. So as x tends to a means that you are going from this side. Say I say limit x tends to a minus. A minus means you are approaching a from left. Then what will be the value of y? Let us say is equal to L1. And if you are approaching A from right side, what will be the value of Fx, where it will tend to, let us say, L2. So you see in this figure, we are approaching from this side, it is A minus, and we are approaching from this side, it is A plus. And say some function is there, so this is the value of y, that fx, say L is there. So either coming from this side or this side, the value is approaching L, and it is coming nearer and nearer as x approaches nearer and nearer to A plus or A minus. So we say that limit exists only when left hand limit is equal to right hand limit. It means when L1 is equal to L2, in that case, say it is equal to L, so limit exists and is equal to L. But if left hand limit and right hand limit are not equal, it means L1 is not equal to L2, then this means that limit doesn't exist. Let us take some example. Say this is x and this is function y is equal to fx, and this is our function. So at some point at x is equal to a, the value of y is equal to, say, L. So as we approach from left, say from this side, it is going to be here. So left, I mean A minus. And as we approach from right, from this side, as we are coming, A is coming nearer, x is coming nearer to A, the value of this y is also coming nearer to A, to L. earlier it was coming nearer to L from this side. So, and both are converging at a point L. So here we say that L left hand limit is equal to right hand limit, and so the limit exists. Let us take another example of function where this is x and this is y. So this is a step function. Say this is x is equal to a, and so function may be fx is equal to say 2 and 4 when x is greater than a and maybe greater than equal to a, and x is less than a, then x is equal to y is equal to fx is equal to 4. So this is the graphical presentation. Here this point is not there, so we will, this point is included here. So as you can see, say this is value L1 and this is L2. So when we take limit x a minus when it is approaching from left, x is approaching from this side. So left means that it has a value 4 when x is less than a. Its value is 4. So fx is equal to 4, and when x approaches from right, fx is equal to 2. So this is equal to L1. Let us say this equals to L2. So you can see that L1 is not equal to L2. So the limit does not exist in this case. Now let us take another example. Say x is equal to a, this is x-axis, this is y-axis, this is L. So here you can see that when x is approaching a from left, from this side, it is approaching towards L, fx is approaching towards L, and when x is approaching towards A from right side, it is also approaching towards L. So x tends to A minus, this is left side, it is equal to L, and if it approaches from the right side, from this side, the value of fx approaches towards the same value L. So it is, both are equal. So in this case, limit exists and this is equal to L. So you can see several examples. Let us take one more example. There may be hyperbolic function, the value of A, and this is L. Now here the function shows it is a hyperbolic function. So as limit of function as x approaches A minus from left side, fx is equal to, this is y. So it is not you see, when x is approaching towards A, y is approaching to minus infinity. It is not converging. And when x tends to A plus from right side, its value is approaching towards plus infinity. So if you come from this side, this value will reach to plus infinity, whereas if you are coming from this side, this is going to reach minus infinity. So in this case, limit doesn't exist. Now we will take some more example that how we use algebra to solve problems of limits. Suppose limit x tends to 3, x minus 3. We have to find it out. Now let us take left hand limit. Okay, so x is approaching from left, that is 3 minus. So in that case we can take x is equal to, it is not equal to 3 but it is 3 slightly less than 3 minus h, where h is a small quantity, h is greater than 0, small. So as x approaches 3 minus, h approaches 0 plus. What does it mean? It means that as x is approaching 3 from left side, the value of h is decreasing from right side. I mean it is becoming smaller and smaller because h is already greater than 0, so it will become a smaller interval, but it will never be equal to 0. So then we can write limit h tends to 0 plus. The same limit we can write like this, and in place of x we can write 3 minus h minus 3 mod, which will be equal to limit h tends to 0 plus, and this will be equal to, this 3 and 3 will be cancelled out, so it will be minus h mod, which will be equal to limit h tends to 0 plus, this will be equal to h, which will be equal to 0. Now let us take right hand limit, in which x will approaches 3 from the right side, 3 plus. So let us take h such that x is equal to 3 plus h. Here x is approaching from right side. You see in this number line, x is approaching, this is 3, value of 3 from the right side. So we are taking h a small quantity, so as h is becoming smaller and smaller as x approaches towards 3. So this will be equal to limit h tends to 0 plus mod of, in place of x we write 3 plus h the function is x minus 3, so 3 plus h minus 3, which will be equal to limit h tends to 0 plus, and these will be cancelled out, so it will be mod h, so which will be equal to limit h tends to 0 plus will be equal to h, so which will be equal to 0. So here we can see that left hand limit and right hand limit are equal, which are equal to 0, so limit exists. Now let us take another example. Say limit x tends to 0 5x plus mod x divided by 3 mod x minus 7x. Three mod x minus 7x. Now quickly, you have understood the concept, so quickly we will do it. Let us take from the left side that x is equal to 0 minus h. Okay, so as x tends to 0, h tends to 0 plus. So it will be limit x tends to 0 minus 5x. So it will be 5 and x is equal to 0 minus h plus mod x mod 0 minus h divided by 3 mod 0 minus h minus 7 0 minus h. So it will be equal to limit h tends to 0 plus, and this will be minus 5h plus mod of minus h will be plus h divided by mod of minus h will be plus h here, so it will be 3h here minus minus plus, so this will become plus 7h. So this is equal to limit h tends to 0 plus, and this will be minus 4h divided by 10h. So h will be cancelled out, so we put h is equal to 0. We don't need to put because h has been cancelled out, so it will be equal to minus 4 upon 10, which is equal to minus 2 upon 5. So this is left hand limit. Let us take right hand limit. In that case we will take x, because we are approaching x from the right side, so x will be equal to 0 plus h, 0 plus h. So let us take the function limit h tends to 0 plus and 5x plus mod x, so 5 0 plus h plus mod 0 plus h divided by 3 mod 0 plus h minus 7x minus 7 0 plus h. So this will be equal to 5h plus h divided by 3h minus 7h. So So this will be finally equal to 6h divided by minus 4h. H will be cancelled out and it will be equal to minus 3 by 2. So friends, you can see here that LHL is not equal to RHL. LHL was minus 2 by 5 and here minus 3 by 2. So these are not equal. So limit doesn't exist. So I hope you have understood the concept of limit. In the next class we will do some more examples and we will also use some standard results. So next class we will do only examples so that it will clarify your doubts. Thank you very much.
Namaskar and welcome to the session on common defects in ice cream and their remedy.